Today, we're diving into 3 events from modern China that are, on their own, absolutely shocking. But when you put them side by side, you start to see something else. You see a pattern, a story that isn't new at all. In fact, it's a story that's been repeating for centuries. So what could possibly connect a mother found chained in a shed, a horrifying public assault at a restaurant, and the suspicious death of a famous celebrity? Well, that's the mystery we're going to unravel today. So it all kicked off with this video that just exploded online, and it was horrifying. In a tiny village in Xuzhou, a woman was found chained by her neck inside this grim, open-air shed in the dead of winter. The image was so profoundly disturbing, it sparked a massive outcry across the entire country, and people immediately started asking, how could this happen? Then, just a few months later, this security footage from a restaurant in Tangshan goes viral, and it's just brutal. You see a group of men savagely attack several women after one of them simply said no to in advance. The sheer unapologetic violence of it, out in the open, in a busy restaurant, it completely shattered that feeling of safety you expect to have in a city. And then we have this third, speculative case about Yu Menglong. He's a famous artist, a major public figure. And when he dies under very strange circumstances in Beijing, the official story is that it was just an accident. But the public, they weren't buying it, not at all. Rumors swirled about a high-level cover-up, feeding this terrifying idea that even being famous can't save you. Okay, so to really piece this together, here's our game plan. We'll look at these 3 modern crises, then jump back in time to find their historical echoes. From there, we'll decode the pattern of power at play, ask the big question, who is actually safe, and then we'll get into something called the trust trap. You know, to really understand what's happening right now, we have to look back, and I mean way back, over 100 years ago, to the Late Qing Dynasty, because you'll find cases back then that are almost perfect mirrors of what we're seeing today. And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at how these line up. The Xuzhou case, with its clumsy, changing official story, it's a dead ringer for a famous old case where officials covered for each other to save face. The Tangshan assault, it echoes a time when local bullies acted like they were above the law. And the Yu Menglong case, it has shades of a famous assassination where the truth was just swallowed up by politics. The parallels are uncanny. So what's the actual pattern here? When you look at all these cases, both modern and historical, you start to see 3 common threads, 3 repeating behaviors that define how power works and how the truth gets lost. So the first thread isn't just one person telling a lie. It's about the whole local system working together to hide the truth. The main goal isn't to find justice, it's to maintain stability, to protect the system's reputation, even if that means they have to invent and defend a lie. And the Xuzhou case is the perfect example of this in action. The official story changed 4 different times. First, it's a legal marriage. Then she's a homeless person they took in. Then she's mentally ill. Finally, they land on human trafficking. Each new story just made them look worse. And it showed the system wasn't searching for the truth. It was scrambling for a story that would make the public anger go. All right, the second thread is what happens when people with power, whether that's criminal connections or political influence, start acting like the law is just for other people. They basically take public authority and make it their own private weapon, assuming their connections will always have their back. The Tangshan attack is a textbook example. These weren't just some random guys, they were part of a known criminal group. And they acted so brazenly because they truly believed they were untouchable. And it turns out, for a while, they were. An investigation later found that the local police chief was literally called their protective umbrella. It doesn't get much clearer than that. Now, this last thread is maybe the most chilling of all. It's this idea that completely shatters the illusion that if you're famous, if you have a huge following, you're somehow safe. It suggests that when you come up against the highest levels of power, anyone, and I mean anyone, can be made to disappear, and the real story will be erased forever. And that's exactly why the Yu Menglong story hit such a nerve with so many people. It tapped into this deep-seated fear that even someone you see on screen, a beloved artist, isn't safe. The fact that almost nobody believed the official accident story shows you just how much people assume that behind the scenes, power plays by a totally different set of rules, and a celebrity could be sacrificed if it serves the right interests. So all of this brings us to a really uncomfortable question. If these patterns are real, then who is actually safe? Because when you line these 3 cases up, you see a terrifying trend. I mean, look at this progression. It's chilling. In Xuzhou, the victim is on the absolute margins of society. In Tangshan, the victims are just regular people in a city, people we can all relate to. And in the Beijing case, the victim is a celebrity, someone at the very heart of the culture. The message here is that this circle of vulnerability just keeps expanding. It's moving from the countryside to the cities and all the way into the centers of power and influence. And what's the ultimate result of this pattern repeating over and over again? It's not just about injustice in one or two cases. It's about the complete collapse of the most important thing a government can have: public trust. This leads to something political scientists call the Tacitus Trap, and it's basically the point of no return. Once an authority loses its credibility, it doesn't matter what they say anymore. Even if they tell the truth, the public automatically assumes it's just another lie. And that's exactly the cycle we're talking about. Every time there's a perceived cover-up or a story that doesn't add up, people just stop listening to official channels. They turn into online detectives piecing together clues on their own. And in that kind of environment, rumors start to feel way more believable than official statements. The gap between the people and the state becomes a huge chasm. So we're left with this. These cases, modern and historical, they show us a map of a cycle that has been going on for over 100 years. A cycle of power, of hiding the truth, and of trust completely breaking down. Seeing the map is one thing. The real question is, who's got the compass to navigate a different path forward?